I'm dying very soon.
Yes.
Could you stay with me? I'm scared.
He sat with her until her time came.
Ace is one of the most tragic characters in the DC animated universe, not because she was born evil or because her powers made her dangerous, but because almost every adult and institution that should have protected her instead treated her as something to be controlled, studied, exploited, or feared. Her story is the story of a child who was failed by everyone around her. She was born with an extraordinary and terrifying ability, but instead of being given the chance to have a normal childhood, she was taken by the government and turned into a living weapon. By the time she finally met Batman, so much of her life had already been stolen from her that there was almost nothing left to save.
It's all because of you. The best sidekick a homicidal maniac ever had.
Where are you gonna go?
Nowhere.
Ace did not choose her powers. As an infant, she possessed the ability to alter people's perceptions through her thoughts and eventually developed the ability to drive people insane through eye contact. Her powers were frightening, but she was still a child. She needed adults who could understand what was happening to her and protect both her and the people around her. Instead, the government saw an opportunity. Ace was taken from her family and subjected to years of experimentation, testing, and conditioning. She was not treated as a human being with feelings and rights. She was treated as a resource. The government essentially turned Ace into a child soldier. Her childhood became a laboratory. Instead of playing with other children, forming friendships, going to school, discovering who she was, or simply growing up in a safe home, Ace was studied and trained because of what her body and mind could do.
The tale of the Royal Flush Gang began at a secret facility where 5 innocent children were taken after being snatched from their families by the government. Our little Ace soon found herself a guest of the government.
They were training me, turning me into a weapon. They got their weapon. I got cheated out of my childhood.
Her powers were something the government wanted to understand and control, so they could eventually use them for its own purposes. Even the device used to suppress her abilities demonstrates the way she was treated. The headband was not given to help Ace learn to live with her powers or to give her greater control over herself. It was used to make her harmless and controllable. That distinction is important. Ace was not being protected. She was being contained. The government had taken a frightened, vulnerable child and taught her that her value came from her usefulness. Her humanity became secondary to her abilities. She was effectively imprisoned and experimented on because the people in power believed that possessing a superhuman ability gave them the right to decide what should happen to her. And the tragedy becomes even worse when considering what happened with Cadmus and the Justice League.
Even they were afraid of her strange power. Fortunately for them, their nasty little headband made her as harmless as a drowned kitten.
When I was little, Cadmus used to make me play all kinds of games. They'd strap me into their machines and poke wires into my brain. Ace, can you move this object with your mind?
The Justice League eventually discovered that the government was conducting horrific experiments involving children with superhuman abilities. These children were being treated as potential weapons, rather than as children who deserve protection. Yet discovering the truth did not magically undo the damage that had already been done. The League could expose corruption and oppose Cadmus, but they could not give Ace back the childhood that had been stolen from her. More importantly, the larger system that had allowed children like Ace to be exploited had already failed her long before the heroes understood what was happening. Ace needed someone to stand up for her when she was a child. She needed someone to say, "She is not a weapon." Nobody did. Instead, different groups continued to view her through the lens of what she could do. The government saw a weapon. The Joker saw a weapon. Even when people were frightened by her powers, they often saw the danger before they saw the child.
Different, they called her. Some even said she was a monster. Is this a monster? They promised to educate the kids, give them a home. But they wanted something in return. Poor lonely Ace.
Ace's tragedy is that she became trapped between people who wanted to control her and people who wanted to exploit her. And then came the Joker. The Joker did something that on the surface looked like an act of rescue. He freed Ace from government custody and brought her into the Royal Flush gang. But he did not actually save her. He simply replaced one form of exploitation with another. The government had wanted to use Ace as a weapon for its own purposes. The Joker wanted to use her as a weapon for his purposes. He recognized the enormous potential of her abilities and planned to use her power to drive millions of people insane through television. Ace was not finally free. She had merely been transferred from one person who wanted to control her to another. Ace throughout her life repeatedly encounters adults who look at her and ask, "What can I make you do?" rather than, "What do you need?" The Joker at least pretended to be her friend, but even his apparent affection was selfish.
The government said it was protecting them, but what it really wanted was to make them into human weapons. My poor, poor Acey. All your life, people have been recoiling in fear from you. And they would have gotten away with it too, if not for me meddling with the kids. They were so grateful for their freedom, they've stuck to me like flypaper ever since.
The Joker wanted Ace because of her power. He wanted to turn her trauma and abilities into entertainment and mass destruction. He did not care about the childhood she had lost. He did not care about the years of experimentation she had endured. He did not want to help her heal. Ace's own behavior reflects the damage done to her. She rarely speaks. She often stares blankly into space. She behaves like a frightened and emotionally stunted child because the government never allowed her to become anything else. Her development was interrupted by years of isolation, experimentation, conditioning, and exploitation. She was a child who had never been allowed to simply be a child, and the first person to save her from this situation was not Superman or Batman or the Flash or any other member of the Justice League. It was possibly one of the worst people to be saved by, the Joker. He managed to do something that should have been done by actual heroes. This was a failure of the Justice League.
Maybe that's why I'm the only one who's never been scared of you.
I'm not afraid of you. I know what it's like to frighten other people. That's why I'm not afraid of you. I'm the only one.
Before you go after Ace, you need to know what you're getting into.
Even when Ace becomes immensely powerful, her actions can be understood through the lens of that stolen childhood. When her abilities eventually evolve to the point where she can alter reality itself, she creates a fortress and a Royal Flush gang of her own. It is almost a distorted attempt to create the things she never had: safety, control, companionship, and a world where nobody could imprison her again. But by then, everyone was afraid of her. And once again, the adults around her focused on what needed to be done to Ace rather than what could be done for her. When Ace's brain aneurysm threatens to cause a catastrophic psychic backlash, Amanda Waller gives the Justice League a weapon and tells them that Ace must be killed to prevent millions of deaths. Batman is the one who goes to her. But unlike everyone else, Batman does not approach Ace as a weapon. He approaches her as a person. Ace reads his mind and immediately understands that Batman does not intend to kill her.
The only way to stop Ace for certain is to kill her.
I'll do it, Shaira. I'm the only one of us Ace knows.
I read your mind. That's how I knew you weren't going to use Mrs. Waller's weapon on me.
No, I wasn't.
Batman goes to Ace and asks her to undo the changes she has made to reality. Batman does not fight her or even try to deceive her because he understands her. Batman recognizes the connection between them. Both had childhoods defined by trauma, although in radically different ways. He understands that Ace was robbed of the chance to grow up. For perhaps the first time in her life, someone who is an adult chooses to listen to her and hear what she has to say, and Batman makes the simple choice to talk to her. Ace tells him about her bitterness over the childhood she never had. She knows that she is dying, and rather than asking Batman to save her or fighting him, she asks him to stay with her. So he does. Batman sits beside Ace and holds her hand as she dies.
I'm dying very soon.
Yes.
Could you stay with me? I'm scared.
This is one of the most heartbreaking moments in the entire DC animated universe, because it demonstrates how little Ace actually wanted. She did not need someone to defeat her. She did not need another person to control her powers. She did not need someone to turn her into a weapon. At the end of her life, what she wanted was simply not to be alone, and Batman gave her that. That moment also exposes the ultimate failure of everyone else. The government had Ace for years and never gave her what Batman gave her in a few minutes: compassion. The Joker had Ace and never gave her what Batman gave her: genuine concern. The Justice League knew about Cadmus and their experiments and for some reason could not stop them from kidnapping children and ruining them. They could not save Ace from being captured once again by the same people that tortured her. The people who feared Ace saw a monster. The people who wanted to exploit Ace saw a weapon. Batman saw a little girl who had been hurt.
He sat with her until her time came.
That is why Amanda Waller was so profoundly affected by what she witnessed. She realized that Batman's greatest strength was not his intelligence, technology, combat ability, or determination. It was his compassion. Batman had every reason to treat Ace as a threat. Instead, he treated her as a human being. And ironically, it was Ace's death that convinced Waller that the world would always need someone like Batman. But there is something deeply uncomfortable about that realization. Waller recognized the importance of Batman's compassion only after watching a child die. Amanda Waller is a member of the organization that destroyed Ace and made it so that she almost killed millions of people. Cadmus and the government were the ones that pushed Ace to her limits until she could no longer handle it and her brain gave out. Waller's first instinct was to kill Ace, not to treat her or even help her. And it seems like Cadmus, the government, and Amanda Waller all get away with their crimes.
The Justice League found themselves cleaning up one of my old messes. As you know, I was in charge of Project Cadmus.
You know, our show was picked up by all the news channels. According to my projections, we've got somewhere between 60 and 70 million people watching right now.
She eventually created Project Batman Beyond because she believed the world would always need someone with Batman's abilities and moral character. Yet the circumstances surrounding the project demonstrate how profoundly the lesson of Ace's life had been misunderstood. Waller wanted to create another Batman because she had finally understood what made Bruce special. But Ace herself never got the opportunity to benefit from that compassion until the very end. Her death was peaceful, but it was not a happy ending. Ace never got to experience a normal childhood. She never got the chance to grow up surrounded by people who genuinely loved her. She never got to discover what kind of person she might have become if she had been protected instead of imprisoned. She never got to attend school as an ordinary child, make ordinary friends, fall in love, build a career, travel, laugh about meaningless things, or grow old. Almost her entire existence was defined by what other people wanted from her. The system created the monster and then punished the monster for existing. Batman was the one person who finally broke that cycle. He did not excuse the danger Ace posed. He did not pretend that her powers were harmless. He simply recognized that the person behind those powers mattered. When everyone else saw a potential catastrophe, Batman saw a frightened child who had spent her entire life being treated as an object. And in the end, Ace chose to trust him. She could have killed Batman. Instead, she allowed him to sit beside her. She asked him to stay. He held her hand until she died. That may be the only genuinely selfless kindness Ace received in her entire life. Her final moments, therefore, represent both the tragedy of her life and the possibility of what her life could have been. For perhaps the first time, Ace was not being studied, controlled, manipulated, exploited, or feared. She was simply being comforted. But it came far too late.
I know what that's like.
You do, don't you?
Ace should never have needed Batman to give her a few moments of humanity at the end of her life. She should have had that humanity from the beginning. She should have been protected when she was an infant. She should have been allowed to grow up. She should have had friends, family, education, love, and the freedom to decide what she wanted to do with her life. Instead, the world looked at a child with an extraordinary power and decided that her power mattered more than her childhood. Ace not only died young, but she also lived her entire short life without ever being given the chance to truly live. Batman was able to give Ace dignity in death, but nobody gave her the opportunity to experience dignity in life. And that is why her story remains one of the darkest and most heartbreaking stories in the DC animated universe. Ace was not born a monster. She was a child whom everyone failed until the very end, when one man finally remembered that she was a child at all.